introduce our first two guests. In studio joining me is Barry Nussbaum of the Israeli group, and Mihad Danzik, Middle East advisor and former Israeli soldier. To start with you, Barry, am I wrong? The Israeli people ignored President Obama?
No, actually, the contrary is true, Rick. The Israeli people paid a lot of attention to what Obama was doing. A tremendous amount.
How so?
When we talked last week, we were discussing the fact that there had been a lot of influence that Obama had tried to exert against the vote for Netanyahu.
That's right.
Specifically, Netanyahu comes to Washington, the president doesn't meet him, the vice president doesn't meet him.
How did the Israeli people listen to President Obama?
Well, here's what happened. Over the weekend, the news was breaking in Israel that what we had heard rumors of last week was indeed true, that the State Department, through a large grant, had funded a Get Out the Vote campaign called the V15 campaign in Israel, whose motto on the ground, translated into English, was ABB, anyone but Bibi. In fact, Obama's #2 man in his last two campaigns, Jeremy Byrd, was the point man in Israel to get out the vote.
Before we go into details, what you're saying, Barry Nussbaum, is that the Israeli people did not ignore President Barack Obama. They rejected him.
Well, literally what happened
is that what you're saying?
There was a tremendous amount of rejection of American attempted influence into internal Israeli politics. And Israel just experienced the largest vote attendance since 1999.
Right.
Massive turnout at the polls, probably because of this. I would be so bold as to say, Rick, that the influence that Obama had on the elections swung the election to Netanyahu, where just 5 days ago, he was down 30% in the polls.
Indeed, the
I
polling...
would say it was...
Go ahead.
I would say it was... There was three things, really.
Well, first of all, before you say there was three things, do you agree with Barry Nussbaum that the Israeli people did not just ignore Barack Obama, as I stated, they rejected him?
I'd say they resented it.
Okay, you've taken it even further.
Yeah, I'd say they resented it. I'd say that the Israeli voters, that when we see a 71, 72% turnout in the Israeli electorate, which is a significant turnout, when we see that many late-hour votes for Benjamin Netanyahu's party, for the Likud party, we're seeing people reacting to what they view as outside interference, that in a big way. And I think there's other factors at play here. That's one of the big factors. The other big factor is Israel's media, which is largely like media in America, left-leaning, right, also had a very big anybody but Bibi campaign. And Herzog, who headed up the Zionist Union Party, which is a left-of-center party, also made this a big campaign about getting rid of Bibi and putting him in power. And I think at the end of the day, the Israeli electorate responded to that, not in the way that the people who were pushing that were hoping. They were looking at it going, wow, we have Bibi right now in place that we can trust our security with Iran to the east, with the nuclear bomb, right. Hamas to the south, Hezbollah to the north. Do we want to have this anybody but Bibi in power? They said no.
All right, let's go to Barry Nussbaum again. So you are confirming there were American operatives on the ground in Israel actively campaigning or behind the scenes campaigning against Benjamin Netanyahu.
Absolutely no question.
We saw the same thing in Egypt in support of Mohammed Morsi before the Egyptian people threw him out of office.
But here's what's really interesting. The Senate Permanent Investigation Subcommittee has leaked the news this morning that they're going to investigate how U.S. taxpayer dollars were sent to Israel to influence the internal politics of our closest ally in the Middle East. It's shocking, and it's a bipartisan committee looking into it right now.
That's a big story. Now, here's another story related, and I don't get this. I ask each of you this question each time you are on, but it takes a new twist and turn today, or tonight, I should say. We see the Israeli people rejecting the interference, as you say, of Barack Obama, and yet we see Jewish American voters by and large supporting the Democrat Party. Most Jewish people I know are very loyal and loving towards Israel, but there's a disconnect here.
No question.
Why is there a disconnect? Their cousins and their brothers and their sisters in Israel are rejecting the utopian fantasy world of liberalism, and here they're wrapping their arms around it.
It might be the old adage that I know my parents had as immigrants to this country, which is the Democratic Party is the party for the little guy, The Republican Party is the party of the rich. That's what they learned when they came here after the war, and that's been passed down generationally. I think there's also an issue of social awareness among a lot of liberal Jews that they don't have that same allegiance on more social issues that the Republican Party espouses. And I think that's the issue. On defense, I don't know anybody that doesn't line up behind the Republican Party from the Jewish community.
You care to weigh in on that, Mihia?
Well, I mean, it's a very complicated issue, obviously, but I think that, you know, if you look at, we talked about this the last time we were here, as people vote on a variety of issues. I think in America, Jews vote on a variety of issues. Security is not as paramount for American Jews as it is for Israeli Jews.
But they understand the security needs in Israel.
But even in Israel, where you, like I just said before, you have Hamas to the south, Hezbollah to the north, and Iran right over there. Israeli Jews don't all vote for the Likud.
Final question. We're less than 30 seconds. Benjamin Netanyahu has come out and said he rejects a Palestinian state. Even those that support Benjamin Netanyahu, some are saying they hope he changes his view on that. Do you think he will?
I think he's literally saying what he's been thinking, which is he hasn't had a negotiating partner his entire term in office. The Palestinian requests at the peace table, Rick, are so ostentatious, they're so over the top, no Israeli leader could ever accept what's being asked.
It actually goes beyond that. The Palestinians have rejected any Jewish state. So given the nonstop incitement from the Palestinian leadership, given that we're talking about Hamas on one side and Mahmoud Abbas, a 10-year dictator on the other side, there's nobody to make peace with.
All right, gentlemen, good point. Let me just say this to wrap it up. I say the world is a safer place today, now that Benjamin Netanyahu has been reelected. America is a safer place. You know, Republicans, it's being said, are going to make national security, not the economy, the #1 issue in 2016. Of course, that's Israel. It's not America, but perhaps this could be an indicator of what's on the minds of voters in America coming up, that being national security in the upcoming year. Again, it's a safer place. They didn't ignore Barack Obama, they being Israelis. They rejected him. That's the message from our two guests.
No question. Absolutely no question.
All right.
They resented him.
Barry Nussbaum of the Israel Group, and Mihia Danzik of Stand With Us, former Israeli soldier and a Middle East analyst. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.